Welcome, everybody. We're here together with Sandy today. I first had the pleasure of meeting Sandy at XP, I think it was 2022, actually together with Heine, which is here today also, when we were presenting at the same conference where Sandy also were presenting. Normally, I'm in the hallways in conferences, but I found something very interesting in Sandy's presentation, and I think it's due time to share that here in this community. So, without further ado, welcome, Sandy, and I hope you will take us through your share your experience with us for the next hour or so.
Cool. Thank you. First of all, I want to say I would love to be with you in Aarhus in person, but unfortunately, flight tickets are really expensive from New Zealand and it takes me about 36 hours to get there. So remote it is. And I'm going to, as Jan said, I have met him and Heine in Copenhagen in 2022 at Agile XP, and they have asked me to do a repeat of my keynote from them. I assume you've all read the title, so I will just assume you are here because you're obviously interested in high performance. And before I ask you a question, there's two things I want to say. One is I'm going to share my screen in a moment, so it's a little bit of a wobble. And the other is that as soon as I start sharing my screen, it's going to be super weird because I can't see you. So if there's anything, should I be offline, you can't hear me, or you have a question, anything, shout. I can't even see the chat, so you just need to shout at me and I'll stop and interact with you. Sound good? Cool.
Yes.
Let me share my screen. And the first question is, or the first thing that I need you to do is once I start, I know that you can see my notes now, which is fine. But once I start and you can still see my notes, shout. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Cool.
Yes.
And not my notes?
Yes.
No notes.
No notes.
Okay. No notes. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Yes, you're obviously here because you have some interest in high performance. You must have some interest in being good at what you do. So I do want to ask you a question, which is, in your field, whatever you're doing, whether this is at work or in your spare time or any type of sport, would you consider yourself being world class? Say like top 1, top 5, top 10, even top 100. Anyone would say yes? I take that.
No.
Either no, and nobody dares to say anything. But if you're too humble and embarrassed to say yes, then that's totally fine. But congratulations. And when I say you've got this, keep doing what you're doing. If you do say no, my next question would be, do you want to be? Do you want to be really good at what you're doing? Do you want to be world class? And if that's the case, this talk's for you. If you're anything like me and maybe believe that you really can't because it's too late, you're too old, you started too late, you're too young, you're born in the wrong place or live in the wrong city, or maybe secretly believe you don't have the talent or don't have what it takes, then really, this talk's absolutely for you. If I were you, however, the first thing I'd ask myself is, why the hell should I listen to her? Like, really, why should you listen to me? And you should, because I've done it, and I can show you how to do it in your field. And it doesn't matter what your field is, whether you're a Scrum Master, product owner, developer, tester, researcher, athlete, trainer, whatever your jam is, the mind game for how to achieve excellence is the same. and they can be learned by anyone. I have done it. I am very old. I am currently in my 3rd career. I started out in my first career as a professional handball player. I won the European Champions League twice. I played for one of the best clubs in Europe. I played at the 1992 Olympics for Austria, and I was among the top 5, played on top 5 teams in the world. In my second career, I turned software developer and became an agile practitioner, coach and trainer. And I also came up with a method for how teams safely can select themselves. Basically walk into an organization and get people to self-select and have them decide which team they should be in. And I wrote a book about it. And if any of you are thinking about writing a book, it's a really bad idea. It takes 5 times as long as you think. But that was my second career. And then in my third career, I started a company, which is a consulting company. And what I do is I work in the company as an agile coach, and I help organizations design and create really awesome teams. And I also help people realize their potential by being amazing team players. And I think I'm qualified because I have done it in professional sports and now also in the agile world. In my spare time, I'm a very enthusiastic but not very good CrossFitter, and also a newly minted surfer. So I've been a lot of class in some of those areas, still working on the others. But in either case, the foundations of everything I've done have been the same. That is managing to be the best I can possibly be by constantly chasing excellence, by constantly finding ways to challenge myself and learn and improve. And I have some advice for you in this talk. And I can't promise you that if you follow my advice, I can't promise you that you're going to be top of your field. I can't promise you that you'll go to the Olympics. To be honest, probably not. But what I can promise you is that you get to feel the fire and the fulfillment that you get from being the best you can possibly be. And whether you're a beginner, you're an intermediate, learning the ropes, or advanced, or really close to world class, I have some tips that I want to share. Ready? Cool. And my first tip is to pick your team wisely. So the big question is, how do you pick your team? I've got one piece of advice there. Be the worst player on the best team that will still accept you. Just going to let this sink in for a moment. Why? Because the better the team, the better the players around you. And that's how you learn. When people are better than you, when you surround yourself with people who are really, really, really good, hopefully better than you. And you also get access to a better environment, access to better coaches, you get better support. You get access to a culture where you can learn. And you also learn how to normalize high performance and this level of ambition. Because believe me, if you're an Olympian, you don't wake up every morning, you don't walk around every day and go, oh my God, I'm so cool, I'm an Olympian. You normalize it because everyone else you know is going to the Olympics too, or is really, really close to doing so. So you just normalize it, and it rubs off on you to be in that company and opens up possibilities. And I really do think that being the worst player on the best team that will still accept you is the ultimate learning hack. But I want to share a dirty little secret with you. It really, really sucks. And it's actually quite a shitty experience because for all the inspiration and amazing learning environment you get, being the worst player on the team sucks because you feel constantly inadequate. And the reason you feel constantly inadequate is because you're the worst player. So it's really not a good feeling. I found myself age 16 on the Austrian national team, working harder than I ever had before, just to hang in there and not be dropped. This is me in the photo after 4 days of solid training in some godforsaken place in Bulgaria, feeling I'm never good enough. And also knowing that I was 16, everyone else around me was really, really old, like 25 or 22 or something. And we had nothing in common. I didn't even really know, like in German, we have a formal you and an informal you. So I didn't even really know whether I should use the formal or informal you. So it's quite a lonely place. And I did think about quitting more than once, thinking there's actually nothing wrong just being a big fish in a small pond, walking away and playing handball for fun. And I'm not here to tell you this is easy, but it's actually one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I stayed. And the reason I stayed is that I knew if I stuck with this and got better every day, I would get closer to the joy and fulfillment and fire to be the best I could be. And I think this is something really important to take to our workplaces. And I have applied it ever since. This picking my team wisely. And the first thing is that starts with the company we work for. Starts with a company. Don't work for any old company. Choose a company where people are good, where you can learn from people, where there's an environment of learning and collaboration, where there's coaching, where there's mentoring, where there's training, where there are conditions that you have people you can learn from. Within the company, there are better places than other. And if you're really lucky, then you get to self-select, you get to choose your team. And when you get the opportunity to choose your team, ask yourself, what is it I can teach? What is it I can learn? And is this fair to my company? But make sure you can learn something and you're not the best player on the team. Make sure that people are better than you. So my point is, learn from people who are better than you. And that's not just within your team and your organizations. This goes bigger. This is going to meetups, to conferences, to read books. And I know that I'm totally preaching to the converted because obviously you are at a meetup. But I want to challenge you that when you are at meetups or at conferences, go and talk to the speakers. Talk to them, ask them questions. Authors of books, drop them an email. Talk to them when you see them at conferences, and by all means respect their time, but seek out people that you can learn from. Which gets me to something that I find really interesting in professional life, and there's a huge difference there, where people in professional sports, when they find they are the best player on the team, they can't learn anymore, and they get an offer from a better team, they don't hesitate to leave. They will move on to a better club because they can learn more and be more successful. And I think we're not doing this at work. We are staying way too long in jobs because we feel we can't let people down. We can't let the team down. And I'm not saying let's be a dick about it and just go, I'm off. But what I'm saying is it's totally okay wanting to move on so you can learn, because no one is irreplaceable. No one. Once you have outgrown a team, once you many times in a row are the smartest person in the room, just self-select out. And that's okay in sports. It needs to be okay at work too. And as I said, don't be a dick about it. In sports, you don't just go, hey, see you tomorrow from one day to the other. They're transfer windows. So at work too, make sure there's succession planning in place. Make sure that you can be replaced and teach other people how to replace you. But got something better, move on. So what I'd like to do now for you, and by the way, I'm not asking you to share this in any way, but I will give you 2 minutes to think about those questions just by yourself. Which teams are you a part of, and are you the worst player? Are there people who are better than you that you can learn from? Which teams do you want to be a part of, and what will get you closer? I'll give you 2 minutes to think about that. Everyone okay with that? If not, shout. Cool. Okay, I just did a quick reality check, making sure that you're still there, and you are, so that is great. Thanks. It would have been really awkward if it was just me talking to myself. So this gets me to my second point, and that is learning how to work with absolutely anyone. And that is something team sport teaches you. Because greatness is never achieved alone. And that might sound like a platitude nowadays, but it is true. Because in fact, individual performance in a team is irrelevant on its own. It is only relevant as the contribution it makes to the overall goal. And not only is it in sports that greatness is never achieved alone, the same is happening at work. We don't achieve things on our own. Work is a team effort. And if you look at the literature of the last 20 years, it's all about teams achieving outcomes, not individuals, at least in the fields that we are working in. And you might think that you're on your own because you're a CEO or you are a researcher, but you're still part of a wider team. In the last 20 years, that have seen the advent of Agile and new ways of working, all have the teams at heart. So there really is a reason and a huge parallel there between not all sports, but between team sports and work. And the thing about teams is that collaboration is really, really important. No shit. But collaboration gets harder the better you and the team become. Because really being able to collaborate, to work as a team, is an individual skill. And the reason it gets harder is when you get better, you just stop playing on a team where you just play with your friend. You're not playing social anymore. You play with people that you don't necessarily like. And you do that because a sports team, an elite team, draws from the biggest talent pool. People are chosen by skill and talent. And that talent pool gives you something that I call radical diversity. There are different socioeconomic backgrounds, age, intelligence, values. It's not a homogenous group. And often you end up with people you don't even like. I used to play on my team. Like I am I grew up in a city, I'm urban, I'm gay and an atheist. I played with people who were homophobic from the countryside and deeply religious. But the thing is, it didn't matter, because if that's the best left wing in the country, I still want to play with her. So I think this is a really important and underrated skill, to work with people that you don't necessarily like. In the workplace, well, the world in general is getting more diverse. We have more nationalities, the income disparities are growing, people are growing up in different ways. And I think there is a problem, especially in the tech world, because when I look around, people aren't very much the same. And I think they are because we hire for cultural fit. And I don't think that's what necessarily gives us the best results. I think we're missing out on talent because we are hiring for cultural fit. Whereas diversity, if we actively create it, would help us making sure we get the best people. And in a culture of sports, we usually hire for a missing piece and not for people who are just like us. So I really want to challenge this idea that you need to be friends in order to succeed. And because you don't, all you need is to respect and trust each other, to have each other's back on the field. You don't have to be friends outside. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should not be friends. It's very, very nice to be friends. This is my friend, my best friend, Leo, at the time here. And that was just lucky. But you don't have to be friends. But if you don't have to be friends and you're with people you don't necessarily like, you need something else. You need to want to work together. You need to want to collaborate. And in sports, those are dreams. They're like glue of cohesion, where you have a shared dream. You want to qualify for the Olympics. You want to win the Olympics. And that's a goal or a dream that makes differences less important. At work, I think this is harder, because it's very often not a dream. It's a bit more, I always found it more mundane than going to the Olympics. But I've always managed, and I've always admired leaders who have managed to give people purpose, to have people understand the why they're doing something, having something that's so compelling that people put the we above the I. Something that connects us and makes us want to work together. But if we have a group of people that are really, really diverse, we can't tolerate behavior that destroys teamwork. We need to make sure that even though we're very different, totally diverse, and don't necessarily friends, there are some rules and behaviors that we make sure are followed. And there's a really good book that's called The No Asshole Rule by Bob Sutton. And he has looked into the cost of having just one asshole on a team at work. It's this toxic player, the toxic star, and the cost of that one person. In sports, that's the player who doesn't pass but wants to go for her own goal. That is the person who just wants to shine on the field but doesn't care about the team as much as they care about themselves. At work, that's people holding back information, playing power games. It will be the VA who refuses to learn how to write any code. It's the developer who refuses to test. And there's one thing that's really important about this. This is not personality. This is behavior. Because honestly, I have been all those people. I've played power games. I've refused to do work that I didn't want to do. And sometimes I have inadvertently acted in a way that's not the best for the team. And when that happens, we need to give people the chance to change their behavior, or ultimately, if we can't, get rid of them. So playing well with others. I'd like to have a checkpoint again with you. 2 minutes again. If you think about the teams that you're in at work in your spare time, are you working with people who are not like you? And if yes, how they're different? Do you share the same dreams, purpose, goals? Why do you want to do something together? And can you play with people you don't like? And are you playing with people you don't like? I'll give you 2 minutes again. Oh. So, as said, there's a difference between behavior and personality, and usually it is not personality, but behavior in context. If this is behavior, that means it is something we can change. And in order to change that, we need to have hard conversations. The person needs to know. So feedback becomes really important. And there are two types of feedback in sports. One is feedback on the field, and the other one is feedback off the field. Let me start with feedback on the field. We need to be able, in the moment, to tell the player who doesn't pass that this is not okay, that they need to play the ball. We need to give each other feedback in the moment without telling them the entire context, building up through their feelings, just like this needs to happen here and now. It's feedback that needs to happen not after the game, not during halftime, but right here and right now. And it can come from anyone, from a junior player, a senior player, a captain, or a new player, people who observe something and need to share their observations. And I think we need to do that at work very often too. It's small things where we just need to tell each other what we need from each other. And then there's feedback off the field. And that's for bigger things. That's for things that we need to be able to talk about, because, and they might be kind of sensitive or bigger, but we need to be able to talk about them because they impact performance of the team. This could be things like, hey, I need you to work harder. I need you to lose weight because you can't move fast enough. It's things that are not personal, but are okay to discuss because they impact the team. When I was about 19, I had a phase where I decided it'd be a really good idea to go out, have some fun, get drunk, and just go to training the day after, as you do when you're 19, totally sure that nobody would have noticed anything, until an older player took me aside and said, well, you think you're getting away with this, but if you do this, it has an impact on me. I'm working extremely hard, and if you let me down and I fail with you on the team, this is not okay. You need to stop this behavior. And I found, and of course, like everyone, I first got defensive, but then processed the feedback and realized actually she was right. On a team, there shouldn't be any undiscussable if they affect team performance. And years later, I found the framework, which is called Radical Candor. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's by Kim Scott. And she has looked into feedback and where feedback comes from. She's categorized it along two axes. One is, do you care personally? Do you care about that person or not? And the other one, do you challenge directly or not? And the place where you want to be is called radical candor. It's you challenge directly, you tell the person directly because you care about team performance and the person. This is that player telling me, hey, you got to change behavior. There are other areas which are, if you challenge directly, but you don't care about the person, the team, the outcome, obnoxious aggression, that'd be road rage, would be in that category. You don't challenge, you don't care, is you see something, you know it's wrong, but you can't be bothered saying very much about it. You just want it to go away, you just ignore it. Not helpful for a team. And then you got the fourth one, which is you don't challenge someone, but you care deeply. And that's ruinous empathy. Happened to me recently, or about 2 years ago, happened to me when we had a marketing person look at what can we do in our company and how could I personally improve my public speaking. And she thought that, hey, Sandy's never going to get anywhere with that accent. And that's great feedback. The problem with that feedback was she didn't give it to me. She thought she'd hurt my feelings and told my partner. And I got really angry about it because it is just ruinous empathy. It leaves me working on my number 2, number 3, number 4 problem rather than number 1 problem that she thinks I have. So for me, what is really important is to give feedback from a place of radical candor. Otherwise, can't actually be bothered. And with that in mind, I think there's something else about feedback that we very often don't talk about, because we say often, hey, we need to listen to everyone. All feedback is good feedback. And I strongly disagree. It's something I've learned from this guy, Vinko, who used to be my coach. And I think most feedback is actually not worth listening to. If you're a professional handball player, believe me, every man and his dog has an opinion of what you should do. There's sponsors, there's an audience, everyone thinks they know what you should do. And some of them are right, but they're actually not qualified to tell you. And for me, if I get feedback and the person is either not qualified or it doesn't come from a place of radical candor, I ignore it. Just say, thank you, and completely ignore it. So I think we should do the same at work. Pick the people you want to listen to and then listen to them. Disregard the rest. They're just a distraction. So I do think it is really important for us at work to have the hard conversations, to have the ground rules for collaborating, to be super explicit and to make sure we don't have any undiscussables. Anything goes as long as it is related to team performance. And the more diverse our teams become, I think the more explicit we need to be around how we interact with each other. So time for you to reflect again about feedback. When you give feedback, or last time you have given feedback, did it come from a place of radical candor? Are you able to discard feedback that's not from a valid source? But at the same time, do you listen to some people, the right people? Are you coachable? I'll give you 2 minutes again to reflect on that. And the last thing that I want to share that I've learned from sports that transfers beautifully into working life is about mindset, and it's about managing your beliefs. I think everyone can absolutely fulfill their potential if they manage their beliefs about themselves and about the world. Athletes do that, and we work on changing our beliefs. We actively work on this, and we do this before we show up for a game. We do this all the time, because when we just show up on the field, it's too late to do the mental work. We call it training our inner athlete, and we even have mindset coaches to help us with this. So first of all, what is beliefs? What are beliefs? Beliefs are inner narratives. They are experiences that are true, and we turn them into beliefs and inner narratives. And some of those beliefs and narratives are super helpful. Others are not. So let me start with the helpful or serving beliefs. Here are some of my inner narratives. I can make it all the way. I'm at my best when it really counts. I don't break under pressure. And I do believe those because I have a track record. All of those I have shown. Like, I don't break under pressure. I showed you a photo of my friend Leo at the Austrian Olympic team. About a week before leaving for the Olympics, they told us that, well, there was one ticket left, and that was either me or Leo. One of us would make the team. And we'd get 30 minutes each to play a game against the US, and whoever played better would get the ticket. And Leo was first, and she played the game of her life. So I had 30 minutes, and I kept it together, and I played really well too. So it ended with a third player not going to the Olympics, and Leo and me both going. And since then, I have this really firm belief that when it really, really counts, I can pull it off. I don't break under pressure. I also have this at work. I know that people like working with me. I have made that experience. I know that I can take any collection of people and turn them into a team. And I can make people love agile ways of working. Those are things that have been true once or twice or 3 times or more times, but they have been true, and they're an inner narrative from me now, and they're super helpful. But like everyone else, I've got non-serving or ugly narratives too. I always miss penalties. Can't be consistent with my nutrition. If I don't learn fast enough, I'll be replaced. And as I said, those are things that used to be true, but don't have to be true anymore, but they're still there. Like, I'm currently working with a CrossFit coach, and there's this one movement that completely eludes me, and I'm taking coaching in this, and I'm trying to learn it, and there's this inner narrative going on, hey, gotta learn faster, or she's gonna drop you. Gotta learn faster, she's gonna drop you. And that is something that's a limiting belief or ugly narrative, because it's not true anymore. It used to be true, but it's not true anymore. Some working ones, like, hey, public speaking, not really my thing. I can't work with corporate bureaucracy, and maybe I'm a bit of a fraud as an agile coach. Those are things, again, once true, not necessarily anymore. But the thing is, we can't just tell ourselves that this is wrong now and stop believing this. It's not going to work. This whole, like, just think positive, it'll go away, not working. So what we need to do, what I have found works, is to catch our stories. The first step is just being aware when it comes up and catch it. Listen out for when it happens. And then replace your stories. Say that your inner narrative is, whenever it's important, I say the wrong thing. I always say the wrong thing. You can't make yourself believe that it's not true, but you can replace that story by listening out. And whenever there's a chance of saying the wrong thing, but you didn't, whenever you say the right thing, you put people in the bucket, or I always missed a penalty. Whenever you score, you put a little pebble in a bucket. And once that bucket is full, it has replaced the original story. It doesn't have to be a literal bucket, but it can be a mental one. But you basically drown the old narrative in proof of the opposite. So what we do is something that's called as many wins as possible for non-serving narratives. And I would love you to take this away and try this out, to identify your non-serving narratives, and then just pick one, work on it, catch it, observe your behavior, and whenever you win, note it down. And once that bucket is full, you'll have replaced this one, and you just start working on the next one. This is a cheat sheet for all the tips that I had. Be the worst player on the best team that will still accept you. Learn how to collaborate with absolutely everyone. Most feedback is really not worth listening to, and manage your beliefs. I've got one extra bonus tip, which is to constantly chase excellence. And you do this by seeking out challenges, by pushing yourself, by saying yes. Even if you have no idea whether you can do something, someone asks you to do it and you feel both fear and excitement at the same time, you know you're in the right place. So I'll leave you with 5 tips to live life like an Olympian. Take a screenshot if you like to, or I'm also sending out my slides.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Do you have a couple of minutes for any questions, if there would be any?
Sure.
Yeah. And I don't know if Stida had a question, or that was an applaud thing, or what she wanted to hit there.
I kind of wanted to applaud, but hit the wrong button. But I also have a question. It was really interesting. I learned a lot. So about feedback. How do you know who are the right people to get the feedback from? Because I find myself that when I'm open to feedback, I am with certain persons. I'm really good at taking in feedback, but then with other persons, if they just sort of give me some feedback and I wasn't prepared for it, it can be really hard for me to take in. But sometimes maybe that feedback was something that I needed. I sort of get to that afterwards. So how do you know who to take the feedback in from?
It's a great question. It's a great question because you just introduced a third element, which is not just the who, but also an element of timing. And sometimes if I'm doing a talk on stage and I just come down and someone gives me amazing feedback that's really useful, I'm not in a place to listen because I'm full of adrenaline, or anything where you're not ready to listen to feedback. Either just say it, that, hey, can we talk about this later? Or I do want your feedback, but right now I can't take anything in. I find that works well with people. Yeah, and I think that's perfectly fair.
Thanks. Good advice.
And Simon.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Yes, so my question is more towards leaders and the leader role. So because I guess there is dilemmas in that. So how do you give feedback to your best players, right? Because you know you have to let them go, but isn't that a dilemma, right? Because you can't really grow them any longer. So that's my first question, and the second is, how do leaders grow? Because the natural next step is to take another role in the same company, because that's typically, but I guess you're saying you could also switch to another leader position in another company, because as a leader you have the opportunity to grow upwards, at least if that's something you aspire to. So would you recommend going up in the same company, or should you also shift club or company as a leader?
I think both are valid strategies, and leadership is, to me, is a specialty like any other. Your specialty can be leadership, or it can be development, or it can be research, or anything else. And it's where do you learn the most about leadership? So I think both are absolutely fair strategies. Change company, and that's a cultural aspect, I think, or change role, or change where you work within a company, like different people. Maybe the team changes around you, or sometimes you are in a place where you want to be in the company, but you want to get impulses from the outside, where you actually just start being part of other networks, leadership networks, basically just making sure that you do learn. And what I'm thinking of is, it happened to me, sorry, it's a long answer now, but about 15 years ago, I started out as an Agile coach. And I don't think I had any idea I had no idea what I was doing. And the thing is, New Zealand's really small. It's like Denmark, it's 5 million people. If you're in a small country, it's a lot easier to be top 5. And what happens when you're top 5 is that other people don't think about the size of your country. So for me, I was top 5 in New Zealand, and all of a sudden, the top 5 in the US and the top 5 in Germany and the top 5 in really big countries would start talking to me, and I was part of this club. And by everyone being way better than me, I learned a lot. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
If I unmute, we have Elena also.
Hello. I'll just lower my hand. Yes. So I've been wondering about this theme for a while, and I want to be better at giving feedback. And I saw that I'm better at giving feedback after I write a little bit. What exactly can I do or read to be better at feedback?
Are you asking for for a good books or blogs or something like that?
Yes, something to practice or to read. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I like Radical Candor. It's a book. I do think personally that it could have been a blog post. It's one of those books that should have been a blog post, and it is a blog post. So could also be enough to just read that blog post. Yeah, that's my favorite at the moment. Things I hate, and it doesn't answer your question, but is stuff like the shit sandwich, where you say something good and then something bad and something good again. And then I just experiment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else that have any questions they would like to put out there? Don't seem to be the case. Then I would like to thank you on behalf of the community, Sandy, for sharing your experience, and also sharing your experience on both sides of the table. There's a lot of people from the sports world that want to share their experience, but haven't been in a corporate setting. I can't say the same for you. So great to see both perspectives on this and your reflections on it and how they fit together.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for coming. And yeah, I enjoyed being here with you. And if you like, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to stay in touch.
Great. Thank you very much. And to the rest of you, have a great day. Take care.